Well, hello, friends, and welcome to today's Rest Stop Conversations. Joining me today is Miss Sephora Escarpeta Garcia. Did I say that well?
Yes, I don't own the store, but my
Uh,
name is.
Also known as Sophie to me. I call her Sophie. Sophia and I attended the same church in Ohio when they lived in Ohio. Now they live in sunny California,
Yes.
and that's why she's glowing. And I'm very happy to have you join us this afternoon, Sophie. I know it's still a little, it's before noon over there.
Yes, it is. It is.
Great, great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Um, in addition to being a friend, we've done a couple of Bible studies together, prayer groups. We
Yeah.
do impromptu, as needed prayer groups. But in addition to all that, Sophie is an author, and I'm going to read a little bio um, about Sophie's work. So, Sophie is the author of Surviving Religious Idiots, Discovering Personal Freedom. And she'll tell you a little bit about why she chose that topic, that hot topic. And you wrote this in 2017, I
Yes, I did.
believe. Good. So, this is a 21-day devotional that will make you look at freedom from the heart and mind of someone who has had struggles with rejection and pain. You will laugh, you will cry, you will think, and you will be uplifted and changed as you begin your journey through 21 days of detoxing all things that hold you back from finally discovering your personal freedom. And Sophie, you'll have an opportunity later on in this conversation to tell us more about your book.
Okay, no problem.
Great. So honored to have you as a guest. We want to start first with having you share who you are and just describe Sophie to us.
Describe Sophie. Okay, that's a good question because we never think about ourselves. I am an energetic, compassionate, artistic person. Very loyal and honest. That
Mhm.
that's who I am as a
Great,
person.
great. And that's the Sophie that comes across. I need to mention here that you and your husband Moses at one time were youth pastors at our church. Or
Yes,
you worked with the youth, and it was that energy, the energy you talked about, the creativity you
yes,
talked about. That was what both of you brought to the
yes,
group when you worked with, with our youth.
yes.
Um, so this summer, I started these YouTube series called Spiritual Rest Stops.
Okay.
And they were more like, when you're on a journey, on an actual road trip, you have
Yes,
to make rest stops
yes.
and to help you refresh and rejuvenate before you continue your journey. So I started the YouTube videos were actually based on a devotional that I'm writing. We
Okay.
should be out soon called Times of Refreshing.
Can't
Um,
wait.
Spiritual rest stops along life's journey. So I
Okay.
started I started doing those YouTube videos, but I also wanted to have conversations
Okay.
with people about rest, the concept of rest, and how do people find rest? What are the practical ways that they find rest? Or, for energetic people, sometimes they don't need the rest, they get all they want from, the energy from, doing, which is fine too. um so I just wanted you to join me in that conversation, and then we'll just see where it takes us.
Okay.
So
I'm
let's start with where we are now with COVID.
whew.
And I want to know, and I know it's loaded. Your family has been touched in a personal way,
Yes.
during this pandemic. And I just wanted to look at how COVID has changed the pace,
Hmm.
the pace with which you do things, how impacted your view of time and rest and work? Can you share a little bit about
Yes.
that?
When everything shut down in March, I wasn't at rest.
Mhm.
I was watching the news every single day, trying to figure out what to do, what the rules were, what was shut down, where we can go, where we couldn't go. So we practically stayed here for 3 months in the house.
Wow.
I was going crazy watching the news. I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up in the middle of the night and I was restless. And I found that I needed to find rest somewhere.
Mhm.
So I decided I'm not going to watch the news anymore. So I shut down the news.
Me too.
I shut down social media because I was tired of, there was too much information.
Mhm.
And then I decided, you know what? For spring break, I'm going to paint. So I decided to do a painting a day in April just to find some rest. And that didn't work because I started painting and then I got frozen shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I got discouraged and I said, oh my gosh, I can't paint because my arm hurts. So I started seeing a doctor, kinesthesiologist, and he put me on a diet. But the diet was not just for food, but it was also a mental diet. It was
Okay.
a spiritual diet and an emotional diet. He told me everything has to work together.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the year, I proposed in my heart to work on my spiritual life, my physical life, my soul, my mental health. And I said, well, you know what? Let's go with it.
Mhm.
So that's what I've been doing. So I couldn't paint, so I started working on myself, on my health.
Mhm.
And then I just started reading books that I enjoyed. Started
Mhm.
reading books that I enjoyed. I read the Bible. I read some poetry books. I read some biographies. And because I couldn't write because my arm was hurting, I, I decided I started going to the beach.
Mhm.
And I sat on the beach and I just watched the waves, watched the water. And I would sit there for 2 hours
Mhm.
and come back to relax.
Yeah.
So that's, and take walks.
Yeah. So pretty much you disconnected because the same thing happened to me. I found that there was just information overload and it didn't help seeing the numbers climbing.
Yes.
And this, we haven't been this way before. It's not like, we're not old enough to have experienced, the
Yes.
pandemic of 1918 or something. So something new was happening. And because of the technology and the sources of news,
Yeah.
we were bombarded
Yes. Overload. Overload.
news. Yes. And it felt like the ground underneath my feet was just
Oh,
shaky. It wasn't stable, with all that was being thrown at
mhm.
us. So
And it
it's
was
good.
confusing. Confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to hear that you found a way to disconnect.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes people think disconnecting means that you are ignorant of what's
Right.
going on, but it's not the same. You can stay informed without being
Oh yeah.
bombarded.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
here and there, I watch the news, but not as much as I was doing it. I was watching it from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is not helping.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
causing more anxiety.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So did you find so you said you are an energetic person.
Mhm.
So do you get are you fulfilled when you're doing? Was it hard for you to stay home for, 3 months, not doing, not being out there and doing what you were used to?
Actually, it wasn't. I'm a morning person, and I'm energetic in the morning, and I like to get things done. But at the same time, because we were teaching on Zoom, I'm a teacher,
Hmm.
Spanish teacher, because I'm on Zoom all day long, I
Yeah.
needed to get away from the computer.
Hmm.
So I would sit in my balcony on times that I had breaks. I would sit at the balcony. I would go walk my dog.
Hmm.
So I learned to, even though I'm go 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 go, I learned to slow down.
Hmm.
and take moments of rest, 15 minutes here, half an hour
Yeah.
there, 20 minutes there,
Mhm.
have some coffee, sit
Mhm.
down,
Yeah.
do a devotional.
Yeah.
And I fit in some Bible study with friends on
Mhm.
Zoom over
Mhm.
the phone
Yeah.
because I felt I needed to just rest
Yeah. Yeah.
from technology.
Yeah. And do you think you learned? I think I learned more about myself. It
Oh
allowed me
yes,
plenty of time for introspection and plenty of time to think about what really matters. Um,
yes,
one of the things that stood out to me was, that our world was changing at such a quick pace, and all the things we had accumulated,
yes,
the furniture, the clothes, the purses, the none of those things mattered anymore because we were stuck inside and
yes,
weren't going anywhere. And it just made it very much more pertinent that
yes.
we should focus on we should focus and build for eternity. We should focus on the things that are eternal.
Yeah, and it gave me a moment to stop and just talk to God,
Mhm,
just me and Him, and say, okay, God, I'm listening.
mhm.
Everything has stopped, everything has shut down. What do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to
Mhm.
do with me? Where do you want me to go from here?
Yeah.
How do you want me to prepare? And like you said, just looking inside, looking inward.
Mhm.
What are the things that I need to get rid of? What are the things that I'm making an idol of?
Yeah.
Just slow down and have
Yes.
some clarity for
Yeah.
my life.
Yes.
And my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my friends, my relationship with my children.
Mhm.
Like you said, the things that were important are not as important now.
Mhm. Exactly.
And all this, getting up and going to work and getting up and going like a machine,
I
and then,
know.
coming home and then going to church and then coming back home and then going to work and coming home and going, all of that. I was like, you know what? It's okay. I
Yeah.
could talk to God in the shower.
Yeah.
I could talk to God while I'm on my balcony while I'm going for a walk. I could talk to God all
Yeah. Exactly.
day.
We didn't have too much competing, for time, with God. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So would you say if you look at Sophie before COVID and now, have you always, the concept of rest,
Mhm.
have you always been someone who is at rest, or have you, like me, sometimes feel like I was on a hamster wheel, like you were saying, I'll be going and going and going. It was like I was to work, I'm back. And then I'm sure I'm at work again, I'm back. And then, um, grocery and you're back, like constantly like
Right,
going and longing for a day that I didn't have to keep going like that.
right.
Yeah.
Before COVID, I had proposed in my mind to slow down a bit because as a teacher, we always bring work home.
Hmm.
And since we moved here, I mean, it's hard not to rest in sunny California. you know, it's
I see those pictures of you guys on the beach, and I think,
yeah,
we have to travel thousands of miles to find
yeah,
one.
yeah, and it's only like 20 minutes here
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So I decided the first year I was here, yes, I was stressed out. I was bringing work home because it was my first year here at this new school. And my second year, this is my fourth year here in California. My second year, I said, you know what, Sophie, you need to stop because you're stressing yourself out. The work is going to get done anyway.
Hmm.
So I started bringing less and less work home, and I just try to manage my time a little better
Yeah.
so that I could get work done. And whatever didn't get done, I would just wait for the next day
Yeah.
because it was affecting my blood pressure.
Hmm.
It was affecting my health.
Hmm.
And I needed to take moments of rest. Now I'm resting much more now than when I was actually physically going to work
Hmm.
because, like you said, things that mattered before don't matter now.
Exactly.
So I'm taking much more time
Yeah.
now to rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you think about a time where you probably had to rest on God's promise. God, God had promised you something. The
Yes.
circumstances weren't looking like what he had promised you, and yet you were supposed to rest in that and trust him. Can you think about a time and what that was like?
Well, during this pandemic, before it started, Moses and I were working on different projects. I was already starting on my next book.
See, and you were
I
clapping.
and then we were talking about art exhibit. We already had the space for it, and we were talking about me doing an art exhibit and getting into some artwork. And then the third thing that I was working on was on doing one woman plays, like one act plays. So
Okay.
there were those three things that I've had in my heart for a long time, and I know God wanted me to do it. And then COVID happened, and then my arm was shot with a frozen shoulder, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? I had all these projects, and Moses also, he had all these projects, and he was about to go to New York for 3 months, and everything shut down.
Yeah.
And so we just sat here and we were like, okay, God, what do we do now?
Mhm.
Like, what do we do now? And we had to take a moment and just sit and see, hear God's voice.
Mhm.
What are you saying?
Mhm.
It's I don't feel like it's a no. I just feel like it's, hold on a minute,
Mhm.
before you proceed, before you go on with that book, before you go on with your art exhibit, and with that those one woman skits that you want to do, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me pour into you. Take a
Okay.
moment, take this time of rest and reflection,
Yeah.
and let me pour into you, because I don't know what people need. I don't know what the future holds. I don't
Mhm.
know what 2021 is going to look like, you
Yeah.
know. And I don't feel like 2020 is a disaster. I feel like it's a time of pause.
Yeah.
Just pause,
Mhm.
be still, and know that I am God. That's
Mhm.
how I feel about 2020.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah. And pausing isn't something we do well because we're a culture that rewards doing. So
Yes.
when we're forced to stop, then 'cause I think that happened to a lot of people at the beginning of the pandemic. They thought, okay, now I have all the time to do everything I've always wanted to do. So
Right.
they went from being busy to being busy, trying to justify, you know,
Right.
their existence, like I have all this time, I need to produce. So it's difficult to just stop and pause when we're a culture that rewards,
Because
busyness.
I think we're afraid of just being.
Hmm.
We're afraid of being in silence. We're
Yeah.
afraid of thinking about who we really are.
Hmm.
We talk so much about that, who you are in Christ, who you are. Well, who am I in Christ? Who am I?
And you
You
can't
know?
tell if you don't pause and
Hmm.
find out, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
And what's my purpose? And what does God want me to do if I'm always running on that
Yeah.
hamster's wheel? I don't
Hmm.
I don't have time to listen to what he wants from me.
Exactly, exactly. And we talk about prayer being a two-way street, but most of us
Mhm.
think it's a one-way. I've talked to God, now I get up and leave. And hearing from him requires resting. It requires waiting
Yes.
so that we can
Yes.
pick up on the signals.
Well, and rest gives you clarity.
Hmm.
I think if you don't have rest, then you don't have clarity.
Hmm.
Because in this time, God has told me, okay, reach out to this person and reach out to that person.
Hmm.
And before, I was too busy
Hmm.
to call this person or that person. Now I have the time to call them, have
Yes,
Bible study with them, and
yes,
really get to know them. You
yes,
know, I
yes,
have clarity now where I didn't have that before.
yes, yes. So, friends, we've come to the end of part one of today's Rest Up Conversations with Sephora Escarpeta Garcia. I don't know about you, but she has blessed me today. Now, stay tuned for part two, and I look forward to you joining us. Bye.